Want to learn how to make yakisoba different with a Japanese style gravy that is thick, savory, and full of flavor and has almost no fat? Stay tuned, because in this video we are going to be making Ankake yakisoba. If we haven't met before, my name is Pat Tokuyama. I'm the creator of the Japanese Cooking Club and All Day I Eat Like a Shark, where I help people learn how to make Japanese food. If you would like to learn more about making Japanese food at home, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this video. So today we're going to continue our little series on omatsuri, all the different types of food that you would enjoy eating at a Japanese festival. So omatsuri, if you didn't know, is the word for festival in Japanese, and it's one of my favorite things to do when I'm visiting in Japan. I've been to many festivals over the years when I've traveled there and when I live there, and it always brings back fond memories. So if you've ever been to a festival in Japan, there's usually all kinds of different things going on, as you may know. There's always live music. Maybe there's a taiko drum, which are very loud. They can be very loud and very deep. There's also maybe traditional music, maybe some traditional dancing, definitely some games to play for your kids if you have kids. Kingyo sukui, which is like sort of saving the goldfish, or scooping up the goldfish. So if you've ever seen people walking around with little plastic bags with the goldfish inside, that's what they played, and other things. So one of my favorite aspects of omatsuri, of course, is the food. Today what we're going to be doing is yakisoba, Ankake yakisoba. So it's a little bit different than the traditional yakisoba, but it's still yakisoba. All right, so for the ingredients, starting from the top left, we are going to be using a little bit of vegetarian oyster sauce, about 2 tablespoons worth. We're also going to be using 2 tablespoons of shoyu or soy sauce, about a tablespoon of sake, a tablespoon of mirin, a generous helping of white pepper, some sesame oil. The vinegar is going to go on at the end, sort of like as a topping or flavor enhancer if you like that acidity. To make the ankake, if you're familiar, we always use potato starch, katakuriko. Here we're going to be using 2 tablespoons dissolved in 2 tablespoons of water. We're going to make sure to reconstitute or stir it up before we add it. And then here we have about a bunch of green onions, and then about 1 bunch of chard, and then 1 bunch of beet stems, 1 from golden beets, and then about half from some red beets. And then 1 giant erengi, or king mushroom. Here we have some kaya no ya vegetarian dashi made from vegetables. So it's a little bit different from traditional dashi made from soup or mushroom. So in place of this, if you don't have it, you can also just use vegetable stock. And then last but not least, a couple bundles of yakisoba. So first thing that we're going to be doing is in reverse order. If you've made yakisoba before, surprise, we're not going to be cooking the noodles last, we're going to be cooking them first. The reason is because we want to get a nice crust. So a nice gold crust, and then it's also going to help us to save a pan, so we have less cooking to do, which is always a good thing, in my opinion. So you got to be generous with the oil. I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of olive oil and then a couple tablespoons of sesame oil. And then we're going to put these noodles in and then let it brown. So we're not going to really break them apart too much, just a little bit. And then we're going to take them out of the pan, set them aside, and then we're going to cook the vegetables. So, whoa. Go ahead and put on this first little bit. Make sure that all of the oil is touching the noodles so that they don't stick, especially if you have a sticky pan, like my stainless pans here. If you have a non-stick, then you have less to worry about. Shinpai suru na. Okay. Just making sure that they don't stick there. I'm gonna put a little bit more. So while these are getting nice and crisped, I'll show you how these look. These are my giant cooking ohashi here. That's how it looks right now. I'm just going to make sure that they're broken up a little bit more. Usually you're going to be adding a little bit of water here, just a little bit to help loosen. Just going to put a couple teaspoons in. Whoa. All right, So we're gonna let that brown on medium heat for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes roughly until they get nice and crispy. And then in the meantime, we're gonna get all of our vegetables ready. So here, let's start with this mushroom because it's a big mushroom. King mushroom erengi is the Japanese term for it. It's got a very, I guess, light flavor, subtle flavor. It's not too strong as compared to other mushrooms. So we're just gonna cut this into, I guess, half and then cut it into little slices so that it'll sort of go well with the stir fry that we're making. So question for you, have you ever made yakisoba before? And if you have, what did you put in it? Let me know if you have in the comments right now. And if you haven't, let me know if you think you'll be trying this recipe. And also, if you have any tips for us, share them in the comments as well. So I'm just gonna cut this into a smaller size so that they're evenly cut roughly, and then they're gonna cook evenly. And then for all of the seasonings here, we're gonna be using a tablespoon of sake, a tablespoon of mirin, 2 tablespoons of shoyu soy sauce, and this vegetarian oyster sauce. So kind of a silly term. They should just call it mushroom sauce because it's made from mushrooms, but they say vegetarian mushroom oyster sauce. So it doesn't have oyster if you look in the ingredients here. It is a good substitute if you're trying to be vegetarian or plant-based and not eat any seafood. But if you don't care, just use the real thing. It tastes just as good. But I wanted to try this out since you guys know that I try to be plant-based. So I'll link this in the description below. I got it on Amazon if you want to try it out for yourself. So here are these mushrooms, sliced, cut, ready to go. We're going to be using all of these onions. You can use regular onions as well. I prefer a green onion for the flavor and the taste. And then we're just going to cut them into a similar length as the mushrooms. And then same thing with the the beet greens. And hopefully if you guys ever cook with beets, you save those, at least if you get them whole from the supermarket, the farmer's market, wherever you do your grocery shopping. Otherwise it's mottainai, a waste. There's a lot of different ways that you can season yakisoba, as you may know. There's like a salt and pepper version, there's a curry version, among other different ways. So you have a lot of flexibility there in terms of the flavor seasoning that you're going to be doing. And then here, as well as the ingredients, are the vegetables. So we are using some different things today than is traditionally used, but it makes for a nice presentation and is very filling. So I'm going to cut these in about a third. And those are all done, ready to go. Okay, so once this is brown and crisped, we're gonna take it off and we can actually plate it at that point. Here we have some vegetarian dashi. This is Kaya-no-ya, which is one of my favorite brands for premium dashi from Japan. It's from Kyushu, and they make all kinds of dashi. This is the vegetable one. So it's similar to a vegetable stock, a little bit lighter in flavor. And we're gonna be using about 1.5 cups of this. I was wondering why it wasn't sizzling anymore and the flame went out. So we're gonna wait a couple minutes until this finishes. So while this finishes crisping up, I'm gonna go ahead and combine all the seasonings here into this one jar. You know what? We're actually gonna make this with additional mushrooms. These are shiitake mushrooms that I use for dashi. So they're dashigara shiitake, which means that they've been used to make dashi. And they still have a lot of flavor and nutrition left. I'm just gonna cut off these ends. These are actually the ones that I grew last year, so homegrown. And they're frozen, which is why they're a little bit hard. I didn't think that they were gonna defrost all the way in time, but they did. So I'm just gonna slice these. And we'll cook everything together. All right, I think these have crisped up just about enough. So we're gonna go ahead and take them off the pan and set them aside right here. And then we'll cook all the vegetables. So we'll cook these for about 7 to 10 minutes until they have cooked down. So the leafy greens would have shrunk a little bit, same with the mushrooms. And then we're gonna go ahead and combine all the seasonings, reduce the liquid, add in the vegetable stock as well as the potato starch slurry to thicken up everything. And then we're gonna pour it over the noodles. So almost done. So I guess a few questions or a few tips for you to consider. I guess once you have the dish completed, a few things that you can consider are different ways that you can finish or serve the dish. So I like to add a little bit of rice vinegar or osu just to add a little bit of complexity and flavor and acidity. You can also use white pepper, which is what I think really makes this dish stand out. If you like white pepper, you're gonna love this yakisoba dish. Same thing with black pepper, freshly cracked. Black pepper is another great alternative to white pepper, or ichimi or shichimi, Japanese style peppers. You guys know what that looks like, this stuff right here. Among other things, you can even change up the vegetables depending on what you have in season or what's in your refrigerator or in your garden, because this dish is relatively flexible. The dashi seasoning or the ankake goes very well with a variety of different vegetables. So if I missed anything or if you have any other tips, please share them in the comments below. We'd love to see and hear how you like to enjoy your yakisoba. So see you back in a bit and we'll go ahead and finish this up. All right, so the vegetables have cooked down more or less. What we're gonna do now is add in the seasoning. Let this cook for about a minute. And then also the vegetable stock, and then the flour. So then we're going to put in the vegetable stock once the alcohol has cooked off. Making sure the heat's on. And then I'm going to put in a few generous dashes of white pepper. You can also put it in after you plate it as well, if you're using it. Okay, and then we're going to put in the sauce here, the vegetable broth. And then last is going to be the potato starch slurry. So you can see it's separated. I'm going to make sure to stir it back up. Otherwise you might have clumps in your ankake, which would be no good. Yabai yo. Yabai. Okay, so this looks very evenly mixed. I'm going to go ahead and stir this in. Make sure that this is at least at a simmer. So I think it might have cooled a little bit, but it looks like it's still simmering. So we should be good there on the temperature front, because you do need high temperature to activate the starch. You can see it's very liquidy now. As soon as you add this in, it should thicken up right away. All right. So you can see it's nice and thick at this point. So cook it for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna go ahead and we'll just do like a little plate here. Small serving first. So here's the one that we're going to be putting it on. You can see these nice and crispy yakisoba noodles. It's nothing like crispy noodles, if you ask me. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's like firm. I know they're not the healthiest thing for you, but what's a life worth living if you can't enjoy it? I guess you can use a spatula. My giant spatula. Okay, so there's like a little serving. And a little bit of white pepper. And that's it. Alright guys, so let me know what you thought of this video. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. Leave any questions, comments, feedback below in the comments section. Subscribe if you want to see more Japanese cooking videos like this one. Make sure to check out the link in the description for the playlist on omatsuri and all the delicious foods that we're going to be making together. And I think I'll see you guys next time. Desho? Yes. Ja ne. Bye bye.